Hi angels, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is how I like to take notes. So I do two different types of notes. I do cornmeal notes and then just focus notes. So obviously I have a whole video on just how I take cornmeal notes, so I will link that in the eye. I will mention obviously this throughout the video that I take notes, cornmeal notes. So I won't be getting too much into cornmeal notes, but I will be getting into focus notes, and they're kind of similar but different in the same way. So how I start this, so let's just get straight into the video. So how I start taking notes is I take like my class notes. So they're like basic notes that I just take. Like if I'm gonna be in a lecture, they're really ugly. They're just two colors. One's the heading color and then one's the actual text color. And I'm just going through all of them and picking out which ones I want to take notes over. Because there are some that I mixed that are from two different classes that I need to separate. So I ended up separating them and then picking out the best notes for this video that I wanted to take. So I actually use three different types of paper, as you saw. I take cornmeal notes for longer notes, and then I use blank paper for F&T notes, which is focus note taking, for shorter notes, and then I use lined paper for basically just in-class notes. So like I could do it in a notebook or loose leaf paper. Obviously I'm not going super in depth on everything in this video, like in cornmeal notes in general. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I meant to say I'm not going super in depth into the cornmeal notes just because I do have a whole video on that goes super in depth with it. So I will obviously link it in the eye. So right now basically what I'm doing is I wrote the name, what class I'm taking, which is health, the date, the topic, which is fad diets because I'm taking health and PE over the summer, and then my essential question. All the products that I have been using in this video will be linked down below in my Amazon link. Again, it's not an affiliate link, so you guys can shop till you drop. I'm not getting any commission from it. It's just all the products that I really love to use. So basically what I did was I took the actual notes that I took in class and chunked them into different chunks, because if you didn't know, when you're taking cornmeal notes, you want to have different chunks and different paragraphs and things like that when you're taking notes. So how I like to chunk them is I use different pens. So I have one pen color for one chunk and then the next one. So right here I'm basically showing you that I skip a line between chunks. You can draw like a squiggly line between it, or you can even highlight it. I like to skip it because I feel like it looks more professional and looks well balanced. So right now you can see that I'm using my old notes to take the notes that I'm taking right now. So basically what I've ended up doing is looking at the notes, and if they make sense in my mind, I will write it down, because these are supposed to be like your perfected notes, and I take a while to take these notes because I really want to make sure that my handwriting is nice and that I'm grasping everything. And then as I go through, I mark off everything that I have written. So that's basically all I do, and you'll see that I do it in different colors for all the notes that I've taken. And I was gonna say something, but I totally forgot. But yeah, so I do switch either pen colors. It could be sometimes I could highlight in between it, but again, I like to just skip a line. you guys can do whatever makes sense for you. I've seen so many different ways about how people take coronal notes, and again, that video that I've made really talks about the different ways I've seen people take coronal notes and the way that I've learned how to take coronal notes. So I take coronal notes, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I take coronal notes when I have like a really, really long like notes. So if I'm taking a class note and it's like super long, what I'll end up doing is using coronal notes, because then they're more structured, so that my notes just look really cool. If I'm taking F&T notes, which is focus note taking, you guys will see it. I will go really, really in depth in this video later in the video, but I use those when I have shorter notes, and they are generally like nicer looking notes than the coronal notes, because the coronal notes are super structured. You can't do much with them. You can draw, but then again, you have like lines and things like that, so you might have to change the paper type. So this is how my notes turned out in general. I think they looked really cool. And then after that, you'll see that I'll be asking myself questions. And if you look at my Apple Watch, I was actually listening to music, because listening to music is a really cool way to just calm down and relax and do like my notes. So as I was saying earlier, I do ask questions about my notes, so that when I'm doing my summary, again, I will go really in depth in my coronal video. So my questions are related to the notes, and then the questions that I've asked, I will basically answer in my summary, and those questions should be summarizing what my notes are about in general. So I talked about the essential question. The essential question is a question that basically summarizes, that you answer it, that summarizes your whole note. So some people save it for last. I do it in the beginning if I know what I'm already talking about. So this is me just asking all the questions. You generally want to have 3. If you have more, then cool, but you want to answer your essential question and all of those 3 questions in your summary, and you should generally have 4 to 5 sentences in your summary. So now going on to the summary, I use a different color pen. You could use a different pen in general. Sometimes I use just a regular black pen that I will later annotate with, and just answer all the questions that I asked, and then I eventually highlight all the periods, because when I'm in school, I get grades on my notes, so they want to see how many sentences you have, so I'll highlight the periods, and basically so that they know how many sentences I have, so that I can get an 100 on every single set of notes that I make. So then after I finish my summary, I annotate, which is basically going through my notes, revisiting them, which is a really good way to study, is just annotating your notes or revising them, because you're rereading your notes and adding or removing things that you think are important or not important as when you were writing them before. Usually people do this before they do the summary, but there's a lot of things that I've kind of switched when I'm doing health and PE online. So I will generally revise and then save the summary for last, because that's what I've been taught to do. But in this video, I decided to revise last. So revising is a really good way to study. So you could literally go through your notes and revise and revise and revise over and over, and you'll just be grasping it like crazy. To get an 100%, I'm pretty sure that my rubric for my for AVID, which is Advancement Viva Individual Determination. Comment down below if you want a whole video on AVID and what it stands for, and if you should take it if it's an option. And I will review it for you guys. I take AVID and I really love it, so I will just comment down below if you guys want to see more of that. So in AVID, I ended up highlighting, and I didn't really like how it turned out, because they say that you could circle or highlight when you're revising, and I feel like if I was using black, then it would have turned out good with highlights, but you know, I didn't end up doing that. Okay, so this part of the video is going to be super in-depth. This is my F&T focus note taking. So the very first step is I get different colors and I chunk out the original notes so that I know how to chunk it out on the regular paper. So if you guys want to learn how to take these notes, it's a good time to take a pen, pencil, whatever, and start taking notes on what I'm saying. So the very first thing is you want to have a topic. So we do get grades. I get grades on this, so I have to write a topic and certain things. So my topic was food safety. So what I did was I used a highlighter and then I pizzazzed it up, because again, when I use focus notes, I like to make them beautiful. Whereas cornrow notes, I kind of just go based off of what it is and make it as beautiful as possible, like changing colors. But this one I can really express how I like to take notes. So this is me just using a highlighter and then doing cursive over it for the topic, which is food safety. The next thing is you put your name on it. Again, everything that I do in these notes, they take grades on. So if you don't have your name on it, then you're gonna get points taken off. Then you wanna put your course. So like I'm taking health online, but you also want to put like the period. So if I'm taking this first period, second period, obviously this is online, so I don't really have like blocks or anything like that. And then the date. And then after that, I'm making an essential question, which is again, a question that summarizes or describes the whole, this is really important, the whole, what is it called? The whole note, like the whole set of notes. That's what I was thinking about. I had like a huge brain malfunction or whatever. So I'm writing the essential question about like the whole set of notes. And some people save this for last. I do it in the beginning because I basically just take the topic and write one based off of the topic. And again, I know what my essential question is going to be because I've already taken notes over it. And then I ended up pizzazzing everything because again, I like cute notes. I don't know about you. So I just kind of added like little dots, little like highlight things. And then this is where I actually started writing my notes. So my first chunk is about like the important rules about food safety. So I wrote that in red. Sometimes I like to have themes, sometimes I don't. So I wrote it in, so each chunk has a title, and that's how you know that it's a different chunk. So what I did was I wrote in purple like my actual notes, and then like the titles would be in a different color. This way, when someone's grading my work, they know that it's a new chunk because it's a new color. Another way that I did was I ended up basically changing the color, but I also left like a little bit of space so that I could eventually go back and add questions to it. But you can take notes however you want. Again, I usually use these when I have shorter notes just because I don't want to use as much paper. But with cornrow notes, since my school has basically an endless supply of these, like that's why I have so much, and that's why I use them for longer notes. Notes weren't super short, but they weren't really long. They went into the back. So then after I finished my notes, I did my questions. So the space that I left between, let's say, bullet points in each chunk or just like spaces between them, I asked questions. So again, you need to have an essential question. So that's one question for your summary, and then you have to have 3 other questions. Since if you're not an Avid, then you might not want to have 3 questions. You can have more, you can have less, but in Avid we need to have at least 3 questions. And the higher you go up, like grade level, the more expectations you basically have. So like I know when I was in middle school, they were pretty lenient on our notes, but they still had like a guideline. When you get into high school, you basically have more set of notes you need to turn in, more questions. Your summer needs to be more in depth. So it kind of depends on what grade level you are at. I know that sometimes they do AVID in 5th grade, like they do it in elementary school. Some people do have AVID in elementary school. I personally didn't. I only had it in middle school and high school. So that could be a thing. So here's me just taking my 3rd question, and I already had like a huge chunk between in case I wanted to either add notes, if I needed space to revise, and basically I had a chunk for my summary. So I just now remembered that I haven't really told you guys what the questions need to be about. Your questions are about something that involves the notes. So let's say I'm taking food safety, and I say that one of the really important rules is that you need to separate your raw foods and your raw and cooked foods and dry foods, all this stuff. If you ask a question, what is one of the most important rules when you are cooking? It needs to be answered in your notes already. So that's why we take notes first and then ask the questions, so that you can use your notes to basically be a guideline for the questions that you're gonna need. And then from those questions, you end up writing the summary. So again, I changed the kind of purple I was using, and all of my utensils or pens, pencils, stationery stuff, again, will be linked down below in my Amazon link. No commission, again, not an affiliate link. So now I'm just annotating things. I know that in each, my teacher used to just say, get used to annotating every single chunk of notes, so this way you will not have to worry about getting thing. You could highlight it, but I liked how it turned out. So that's the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This is the before and the after. Again, I hope you guys like this video. I hope it's super informational, so that when you go back to school, or if you're in school when you're watching this, it could help you in the future. So stay tuned for next Sunday's video, because I promise you guys it will be an amazing one. And stay tuned for Tuesday's videos in case I upload new videos. I love you guys so much. Thank you for all the support and love, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.